Ah, kábíyèsí sà. Ẹ kálẹ́ sà.
Olóyè, God bless you, Pastor.
Kábíyèsí sà, ìdọ̀bálẹ̀ ni mo wà sà.
Kò tún yẹn.
Good. Bí wọ́n ṣe kọ́ wa ní sà. Bí wọ́n ṣe kọ́ wa nìyẹn, pé ẹni tó bá jù ní lọ, ó lè jù nínú. It's so good to have you on this show, sir.
Thank you very much.
Before I do a proper introduction, we have a protocol. We'll play a song to welcome you and to relax you. And then thereafter, because it's a celebration, you know, ovation is synonymous with celebration. And we're very happy to have you, sir. Then I will talk a bit after the music.
Thank you.
Let it rain, cause the rain to fall on me. So open the floodgates in abundance and cause your rain to fall on. Somebody raise it up there. Open the floodgates. Hallelujah. In abundance and cause your rain. Now let's cry out to our Father. Everybody say, Father. Lift your hands and say it. Let it rain. Oh, anybody want the rain of God tonight? We're in your presence. Somebody, it's our prayer. That's you. I need some rain in my life tonight. So heaven, come on, say it. Oh, be in the blood, in abundance, and cause your rain to fall on me. Let your voice be heard, say it. Oh, be in the blood, and cause your rain. Oh, in the blood, and say, God, oh,
This is Pastor Joseph Ayobami Dele Momodu. Welcome. You made it happen, sir.
God, Pastor.
Yes, sir. So I have the honor and privilege of welcoming you on this program. You can say I'm so excited. I've followed you for decades. I've been your protege. And you've given me the opportunity to even stand before your church.
Thank you.
To say a few words. And I must thank you for that privilege. I must also thank you because I tried to reach you, and when I got you finally, immediately, without any conditions, you accepted this invitation. Thank you, sir. May God continue to bless you, sir, and your family.
Amen. Thank you very much. It's a privilege and honor.
I want you to please, in our usual tradition, introduce yourself briefly. We have viewership from everywhere. They are writing it, and then we'll continue from there, sir.
Well, my name is Tunde Bakare, and I have the privilege of pastoring the Citadel Global Community Church, formerly known as
Thank you, sir. Could you tell us a bit about your background right from the beginning? I've read so much about you that your dad was a Muslim. I think your mom was a Christian. So let's hear it from the opposite mouth, as they say.
Well, I was born into a very rich Islamic tradition home, so to say. My grandfather was the chief imam of the first mosque in Shodeke. You recall, Shodeke led the Abbas to Abeokuta in 1830. My grandfather, who happened to be a great-grandson of Shodeke himself, or a grandson of Shodeke himself, was the first chief imam of the Koro Shodeke Muslims. Both my parents were chieftain. My father was a chieftain in Islamic religion, and my mother also was a Muslim. She went to Mecca, Medina, and I was raised in very rich Islamic cultural background. I attended Quranic school from a tender age. I actually graduated from Quranic school just a year after I left primary school. I graduated from Quranic school April 16, 1967, with a Wolima going around on the back of a half-white horse after I graduated. I went to All Saints Primary School because my father died early. I was about 3 years old when my father died. I was taken to Sokoto to live with my uncle. He was a striking Yoruba in Sokoto Emirate. And in 1959, I was returned to Abeokuta to be enrolled in primary school. I enrolled in 1960 and started primary school in 61. I left in 66 due to my father's death in 57. I could not immediately continue my education. I had to be taken to a carpenter's shed here in Lagos. I learned carpentry a bit, but when they used a saw to beat one of the apprentices, I left them a note that I've had enough. I returned to Abeokuta and started all kinds of menial jobs, fetching water and firewood every weekend and every day, and earning 2 shillings a day and 4 shillings at weekend. And I was able to save enough money to go to secondary school alongside the support of my mother. By the time I got to Lishabi Grammar School in 1969, my classmates in primary school were already in Form 4. But God saw me through Lishabi Grammar School, and it was my turn in 1969. So, and failed the maths or English in those days was failing all. And so, because I had an F9 in mathematics, I had to go to Zumratu Islamia Grammar School here in Lagos in 1974 to retake my school out with mathematics, and with the help of one of my fellow students, Amid Abebefe of blessed memory, I came out with C5 with other subjects in mathematics, and he came out with C5 in English language. We were teaching each other. His English was not good, my math was bad. And so we were teaching each other after school, and we both left with C5. From there, I did again some casual job with P&T in 1974 until the boss slapped me, not knowing that I'd done all I needed to do to sit down. Back then at the P&T Marina headquarters, at the letter sorting office, we were earning 1 naira 8 kobo per hour, depending on the number of hours you do, sometimes 7, sometimes 8. And you were now supposed to sit down until you have sorted out 2 bags. But I've become so proficient with it that I was on the 3rd bag by 9 a.m. Sit at 9, except you have sorted 2 bags. But I was on the 3rd. The boss did not know the supervisor. He slapped me from the back. And I said, sir, why did you slap me? He said, well, you're not supposed to sit down. I said, sir, the rule says 2 bags. And I've done that. And he said, well, that's it. I should have showed the bags to him. So he didn't ask me before he slapped me, and he walked back. I was so angry. I went down, rinsed my hands in water and put it in sand and came back and gave him a thorough slap from both sides, and he fell down. So my appointment was terminated, and
Wow.
that was it. I went back home. I would not be subjugated or subjected to any indignity. And then General Postmaster of blessed memory, Mr. Willoughby, W.W. Willoughby, who was my friend's father. He was also doing casual job. He reported the matter to his father, and I was invited to the overall boss's office. I remember that morning when I got there, he said, "How dare you slap your supervisor?" I said, "How dare my supervisor slap me without in an unjust manner?" And he asked me to apologize. I did, and the man apologized to me, and he gave me a letter to go to the headquarters to start a formal work there. And it was from there that eventually found my way to the First Bank, where I worked from 1975 to 1977 to save enough money to go to the university. And that's a long story itself, because God helped me all through that period. I've told this story from house to house rather than begging. And it was one of those people I was washing clothes for that I was singing the national song that asked me, "Do you speak English?" I said, "I have a English language." And he said there were opportunities at UBA and First Bank. I went there to top the list, but the money for First Bank was more than that, the money for UBA. So I crossed over to First Bank in 1975, saved enough money. I went to the University of Lagos from 1977 to 1980. And I left for the law school at the end of that and was called to the Nigerian bar in 1981.
Wow. 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 So aside, okay, your law practice, could we have the trajectory of your law practice, sir?
My law practice was very exciting. I first set my eyes on Chief Gani Fahimi in 1975. I was working at the First Bank then, and at the same time doing my extramural studies for A-levels. I did my A-levels in 9 months. One of my then teacher is Professor Jide Osuntoku, who taught and other subjects, European English, economics, European history, economics, government, and logic. And those were the subjects I did. I saw Chief Fahimi at the National Library, where he did his presentation of how Nigeria can have free education. It started a free education association then, and his guest that day was Chief Obafemi Awolowo at the National Library. That was my first time of setting eyes on him, and I was fascinated by his persona, his determination to use the law as an instrument for social change. And I've told the story over and over again how Professor Aluko, Sam Aluko, was the MC for that day. And I remember him saying, "Never send an African into the moon. It will become a permanent satellite there. Because if they ask him to press a button at 11 a.m., he will forget and do it at 11 p.m. and call African time." He said, wow. Chief Obafemi Awolowo would never be late to a function. And 5 minutes to the program, Chief opened the curtain from behind and stepped to the podium. And we all shouted, "Awo." That was how I started my journey with Chief Gani Fahimi, even before I went to the university. And when I was in the university, I was doing dual job at weekend with him to do his law reporting as a student. And at the same time, I was washing plates at night to support myself at the Oasis Hotel in Akoka.
Wow. And then I read that you also worked at the chambers of Chief Rotimi Williams.
Yes, when I left, eventually when I was called to the bar, I was with Chief Gani Fahimi, and it was from his chambers. I left for Chief Rotimi Williams, and I left Chief Rotimi Williams' chambers, Tunde Bakare and Kodi El Shaddai chambers on October 1, 1984.
Now, the chambers of Chief Rotimi Chief Ganifaweimi was extremely radical, while the chambers of Chief Rotimi Williams was conservative. So how did you reconcile the two?
Believe me, it was a pleasure to know both icons of the law and to practice with them. I would like to say that Chief Ganifaweimi liberated and brought some liberation into the Nigerian legal system and legal practice. Before he became the secretary to the Nigerian Bar Association, only very few senior lawyers, SANs, had access to Supreme Court judgment. And those were the ones who could cite Supreme Court judgment in the law court secretary. He began to campaign for liberation of that. And by the time he started his weekly law report and Nigerian constitutional law report, I joined him, and you will see my names emblazoned on some of those publications, because he sent me to UK about twice to go proofread the Nigerian constitutional law report for him. Extremely radical. I told you he was determined to use law as an instrument for social change. On the other hand, on the other side, Chief Rotimi Williams was, like you said, a conservative, prim and proper. I'm looking for the word to use. Something happened in court when I was with Chief Rotimi Williams. The circumstances for my leaving Chief Ganifaweimi, I've told it publicly, we remained very good friends until his death. And I was there at his death to pay my last respect. And the family and Mo could come into my home anytime. The wife of the late Chief Ganifaweimi, if they call me in a second, Mama Mo, she knows I'll be there for them by the grace of God. But I crossed to Chief Rotimi Williams' chambers, and I followed Chief Williams to court. And Chief Ganifaweimi, seeing me in court, deliberately announced me. He said, Ganifaweimi appears for the plaintiff. Rotimi Williams just graciously got up, announced the second person who came with him, and left me out. And he asked me, why did he do that? I said, well, that's cheap for you. But believe me, the two of them might look like extreme poles, but they were really, they were lawyers that went to court with law. Unlike today, that is said there are two types of lawyers, those who know the law and those who know the judge. Those ones knew their onions, and it was a privilege to be mentored and trained by these icons of legal practice.
Wow.
Icons of law, I beg your pardon.
Someone wrote on the screen that with your underprivileged background, how come you are able to blow so much grammar and you look like a jebota?
Well, that's the standard of education we received. Credit must go to Mrs. F.A. Alabi and Mr. Dekunle, who taught me English language at the Lishabi Grammar School. From secondary school, I started debating for my school, and I eventually won the Nigerian Red Cross Corps in national debate in 1974 while I was in Zimratu Islamia Grammar School. Part of those we debated in those days together is my friend Otumba at African Church Grammar School. He was representing Baptist Boys High School, and I was representing Lishabi Grammar School. I remember what he said for my 50th birthday. He said, in those days, the fear of Tunde Bakare, my Muslim name, in debate is the beginning of wisdom. He was also strong himself, but we don't discuss the outcome of our debate with people. But I will tell you that those teachers laid the foundation. To takes present tense, e.g., to go, to come. Did takes present tense, e.g., did you hear me? Have a not take participle. Have you heard it? Have you heard the news? You have drunken the water. And they made us read. By my Form 2, I've read the Renaissance Africa, a book published by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe in 1937. The whole biography, My Early Life by Chief Obafemi, we have read it, and we have crammed so many poems. In fact, every idiomatic expression in the Michael West Dictionary was in my head, and I use it for the day. So, and natural talent, abilities, and discipline and industry improved. I wanted to be a journalist. I was following Terry Dele Momodu, who was the training manager for Daily Times until he became the science editor after Peggy McGregor died. I was following them, so I know all those guys were at Kakawa Street, including late Dr. Nogurua. I knew all of them. Musa was one of my favorite journalists of those days, back page on Sunday Times. I remember the things he wrote clearly until today in those days. So in my days, we did not have time for smoking hemp. We had time to study and to desire to contribute our quota meaningfully to society. I've had the privilege of lecturing in universities outside of this country, and they pass the same comment. They think I'm an Ajebota. No, I am an Opako. I started from Paco, but I eventually got to Butter.
Wow. Your protege, Pastor Adegboyega, is watching from London and sends Spark Nation. Yes, he sends his greetings. Yes. Yoruba language. I hold the first degree from University of Ife in Yoruba. But your Yoruba is of a different level. Could you tell me a bit about how you were able to know so much Yoruba? Even in the church, when I'm watching you and you are speaking in Yoruba, it is just too sweet and flawless.
As a graduate of Yoruba language, you will know those they call Omo Agba. I happen to be an Omo Agba. And what they trained us with is sometimes Ojulorowa, sometimes with proverbs, Owe lesson. And I listened to conversation of elderly men. I was the last son of 22 children, and all others were gone. So I was at home alone with old people, and I listened to them, and I got an A1 in Yoruba language, if you care to know too, because I studied Yoruba very thoroughly. There's no point. In fact, I tell people I interpret Yoruba into English to quickly speak English because I could know yours. It's a shame that we are not raising our children to know I call it the magnificent language of Yoruba, because there are some things you say in Yoruba you can interpret into English with your ability. One of them is Amonimunero Biye Ibiye Foju Otun or a photo. Tabela Afoju Olowera Nambawini Aberon Funarai. To interpret that into English to take all your grammar put together.
Wow.
So Yoruba language for me, and if anyone that wants to really understand Yoruba should start reading the Psalms in Yoruba language or the Proverbs in Yoruba language. In no time you catch the flame and the fire of the essence. Yoruba to me is second to none. Maybe comparable only to.
Wow. So how do you feel that these days our children no longer want to speak Yoruba? They don't think it's a funky language. They think it's bush. How does it make you feel?
It makes me feel very sad because they're losing terribly. It's a total loss. And if Can is not taken, one of the things God guaranteed for the people of Israel, that it will restore pure language to the people. And wherever they are, they still will speak their Hebrew language up till now. And if we don't find a way how we can do a renaissance, whatever we can do to ensure that even if our children have missed it, we begin to ensure that our grandchildren do not lose it, we may lose the essence of Yoruba language and all the ethos and all the values that were communicated to us through Yoruba poetry. A person like Shoba Arubiodu will be turning in his grave, an Egba poet. In those days, that would come on radio, and the Larry White lead me. I mean, for example, you can say to a man, "You are a lazy person, and this will not augur well for you with your laziness." Yoruba will say, "Any teacher in Shekomashi Boshun, or Okotosha, Oba Aboshon, Goko Bobatana, or Jobato Jija Dilumato Jam, Osha Timbalemti, is your word in Beniga." You hear that, your head will swell because it will propel you into action. We need to go back to our roots and dig those things and dust them. I don't mind volunteering to be a Yoruba teacher in the tradition of those who taught us Yoruba English, like Mrs. Akinosho, my blessed teacher of blessed memory, who took her time to show us pathway in Yoruba poetry.
Wow, fantastic. I know you also love Yoruba music, and in particular, Chief Commander Ebenezer Obey. I'll give you just a quick track from Ebenezer Obey before we continue this conversation. Oh, wow. Chief Commander, Baba. We spoke to him on this program recently. Yeah, and it was very, well, very, very fantastic. Yes, I wanted to speak to you. Did you, before you started your ministry, were you married or you married after your ministry?
No, I was already married before I stepped into ministry. I got married November 24, 1984, and I did not ministry for me did not really start until 1988 when I pioneered the model parish of the Redeemed Christian Church of God, from where I left for Lateran Assembly, April 1, 1989.
So how did your wife take it when you chose to leave the profitable career in law to go into the ministry?
Truth be told, she was concerned. I remember when I eventually told her that with Pastor Adeboye, and Pastor Adeboye's counsel was I should not leave legal practice, that I should combine both. But I did tell him I knew expressly what God said to me to do at that time, and that other things I was doing, because I had other businesses who support me, I needed to focus on what He has called me to do. My wife simply asked one question. She said, the children, how would we fund their education? Because back then, we saw how much pastors were earning. It's next to nothing. But I didn't get a dime salary from Redeemed Christian Church of God. Not once, all the time that I was there. I did not get 1 penny salary. It's on record, and Pastor Adeboye is still alive. And then I moved to the Lateran Assembly. I carried the same values there. You see, Paul said, "This my hands are provided for my necessities." And I thank God that He didn't put me to shame. My mother was much more concerned about it than my wife. I remember my mother coming from Abeokuta to tell me, if she can call me now. I said, "Mama, get ready to
Mama Pastor."
And on our 10th anniversary of the Lateran Assembly back then, my mother did not truly did not only repent, she came with money from the beginning. But that day she said, look, I really want to thank God for your insisting on what God has told you and that you refuse to be derailed. And there were friends of mine who said, why do you want to go back to square one? You knew your background. You can do this thing simultaneously. There are people who will combine it at that stage and it will work. Remember, there was never a pastor in my family. Remember, other than that, I've worked with the likes of Brother Kumuyi for 5 years and with Pastor Adeboye subsequently for 5 years. I had no formal training. I did not go to Bible college for one day in my life. It's been my privilege to teach in Bible colleges and universities until Indiana Christian University gave me a doctorate degree based on my one of my books that they used as treatise and they used to teach in their faculty on biblical economics that I wrote in 1993. So I just whatever I set my heart to do in life, I threw myself into it completely. And so she wasn't troubled after I explained to her. And to the glory of God, we have no regrets today at all. She's been fully supported.
Fantastic. Yes, I wanted to say that it seems you move from extreme to extreme. You
remember that you ride the pendulum and it goes from extreme to extreme.
You moved from Chief Ganifa Emi to Chief Rotimi Williams. Now you move from Deeper Life to Redeem.
Well, I started from the Baptist Church. I got born again in the Baptist Church on September 24, 1974. And I was their youth pastor in 1980. But by 1977, when I got to college, I started going to the Foursquare because of charismatic Pentecostalism that is a little bit above the paid grade of the Baptists. The Baptists believe Jesus Christ is the Savior. The Baptists believe Jesus Christ is the healer. They believe Jesus Christ is the baptizer in the Holy Spirit. They also believe Jesus Christ is the coming King. But they were not speaking in tongues. And I got filled with the Holy Spirit, different ships. So I started fellowshipping with Foursquare and would come on Sunday, sometimes to Yaba Baptist Church until I became their youth pastor. And it was from Foursquare that a friend of mine invited me to Bible study, Monday Bible study in 1978, to go with Brother Kumuyi. And when the Deeper Life Bible Church started, I was fully integrated into what they were doing, and I was part of the local leadership at the Ghana headquarters. I left Deeper Life in 1983 and went back to New Estate Baptist Church because of issues that arose there. And it was from there that my photographer, Dele International Photos, invited me to Redeem first Sunday of March 1989. So it was not a matter of extreme. It was the steps of a righteous man ordered by the Lord. It was God moving me from place to place so that I could understand exactly different streams of ministry and how to bring all of them together into what we are doing today. We thank God for those men who showed us the way of holiness, the fear of God, who taught us faith and love, and who were midwives of what we are doing today.
Wow. Yes, someone is commenting as if he knew what I was going to say next. That you seem to have a photographic memory for dates. You are so precise. Is it based on your background, learning the Quran or what? How did you pick up such photographic brains?
Well, we should give glory to God for that. I wish you had met my mom. You attended magazine Did in honor of my mother. God will honor you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for it, because I let people realize I didn't pay you a dime for any of those things. I didn't even know you were going to do them, but you did them, and I'm highly honored. If you had
Thank you,
met
sir.
my mother, blessed memory, who passed on at the age of 108, she never mixed dates up at all. And she
Wow.
remained articulate till the day she breathed her last. She would tell you what happened in 1920 as if it happened yesterday. Apart from that, learning the Quran and putting the whole Quran in your head would definitely increase your gigabyte.
Wow.
And on top of that, I have the mind of Christ. I think it's God's gift. It's not something I deliberately planned. Now, to be a lawyer, you have to be detailed. You have to be specific, especially when you are mentioning dates and things like that. You can't confuse issues. That might have added to it. But above all, I think we have the mind of Christ and his wisdom personified. And by the way, this is serious, but I'm saying it in a very joking manner. Traditionally, in a back kingdom, my family was called Omwateniwijo Kiwo Wema. So whenever I came to historical tradition, they would come to our home to invite our ancestors to narrate history accurately so that no jot or tittle will fall to the ground. Omwateniwijo Kiwo Wema.
Wow. Someone is asking if you can still recite the Quran.
Which part does he want me to start?
Anyone you can remember, sir.
From Alif Lam Mim Salik Al Kitab La Reba Fi Huda Lim Takina, or Walihazrin Al Insan La Fi Usri La Lazina Amano. Let me stop there. I graduated properly. I can recite Quran from cover to cover.
Wow. This is serious. Now I want to talk about another extreme, from pastor to politician. How do you manage the two? Because you are in church. In fact, your church is so, how would I describe it? It's so interactive because you talk about current affairs all the time. You don't just preach the Bible and teach the Bible, but you also talk about good governance.
Well, my political career did not start yesterday. Many people did not know how I decided to become a lawyer. It was the influence of a man called Olusoji Odunjo. He was the son of Papa Odunjo that wrote Alawiye Pakefa, the older brother of the present Olori of Obagbadebo, the Kabiyesi, the paramount ruler of the Egba kingdom. That was the older brother. I saw him in court and I saw the way he was doing his things. In 1963, I was fired up and I made up my mind I was becoming a lawyer. And by 1964, if you recall very well, a lot of crisis had begun in Western region. That was the time OBGA was formed. I saw Yeye, Mamad, HID, came with Okpara to our hometown to campaign. So I was fired up and I began to be part of the then action group. From the pulpit. I ran for the presidency of the union, of the student union. And then, when UPN was launched, OGD and I and a few others started what we call Dyna Club at the University of Lagos. And we brought Chief Obafemi Awolowo in 1978 to give a lecture to his home in Park Lane, Apapa, to learn about rudiments of good governance and politics from back then. Many people thought I just woke up and said this. Good governance is very, very critical as far as I'm concerned, because I can give $1 million scholarship to students and they will call me a great man. But if I can influence education policy, I can educate all the students, children of school age in Nigeria. It's so critical. Unfortunately, we confuse these issues. We have forgotten that the Bible says the government will be upon the shoulder of Jesus Christ. We have forgotten that in Isaiah it says the Lord is our judge, is our lawgiver, is our king. He will save us. Those are the three arms of government: executive, legislature, and judiciary. All these things are already in the Bible. Don't forget Joseph taught the senators of Egypt wisdom. How do you separate Christianity from good governance? It's untenable, totally untenable. And if the Bible says the solution to corruption is the manifestation of the sons of God, the earlier we got involved as the salt of the earth and the light of the world, the better. Now, that is not saying every pastor is called into politics. That's not saying every Christian is called there. But there are 7 mountains of culture, education, politics, economy, and so on and so forth. Everyone must know his appointed mountain and contribute his quota, or else the pigs will continue to flood the mountaintop and we have ourselves to blame. Nigeria complain all the time, but they take.
Now, I see you, sir, as an encyclopedia of Nigeria's political history. Could we go back to the beginning to date? Just short analysis, your views on the various governments. You can skip any, but just your general understanding of Nigeria's political history.
Whatever anyone would like to say about Nigerian political history, I'm still of the considered opinion that the military drew us back. They claim to be coming in 1966 to intervene in the affairs of Nigeria with the coup, the abortive coup of Major Kaduna Nzego. That had drawn Nigeria back, and I call them the wasted years of our nation. Anyone that grew up at the time that I grew up, that enrolled in school in 1960, that held the flag of Nigeria, that sang Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land, that saw what was happening. Yes, there were crises. Were there not crises after that? They took us back. And now, many of them, and they are yet to restitute, to really repent for what they did to this nation, because they truncated our democracy and drew us back for years. And we are yet to come out of the woods. Look, how can anyone today sit back in his right mind and compare the laudable accomplishments of Chief Obafemi Awolowo in his 40s as Premier of the Western region, the things he did with cocoa money, with taxation that people willingly pay, the free education that we enjoy? If not for his free education, I won't be here. Yes, we didn't have nursery rhyme. The foundation we had then is what has brought us to this level. You cannot compare those years, the golden era of the regions, when each region had self-government and had its own constitution, when each region was developing at its pace. How many Nigerian youth today would know that it was not federal government money or British government money that built Obafemi Awolowo University, then called University of Ife? How many of them realized it was the regional funds that built University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and Ahmadu Bello University? They told Chief Obafemi Awolowo he couldn't do it. He did it. And look at how many first television station in Africa, before many European countries, would have been competing favorably with nations like Singapore and others. But we are backward today because some, not all, some of the military men did only what military people do. When the military enter a territory and they conquer, they just loot. There's nothing to compare other than independence till the military struck, the military era, and the post-military era since 1999. If I'm going to discuss Nigerian political history, I'll divide them into those three. Were there other things that the military did that were good? Yes, they did infrastructural development. We thank them for Third Mainland Bridge. We thank them for Eco Bridge. But we need more than that. They've destroyed our educational system, and they were doing palm any 3 from 4 with our economy, and our social life had completely collapsed. We need to rebuild Nigeria, but we believe there will be a new Nigeria. But Nigeria must be restructured. We must go back to those fundamentals that made this nation great, except we are willing to commit to that and ensure, even if it's going to take us years to do it, let's begin not just with political power alone, but economically. Let each one, now that oil has collapsed, there are resources in our ground that we can still tap to make our nation great again. It could be geopolitical growth. It could be one form of the association or the other. I thank God that I sat through the 2014 conference, national conference, and I thank God for the irreducible minimum that we thought would make Nigeria great, that Nigerians from all walks of life gathered together to say this is the way to give this country the kind of leadership it deserves and the pathway it should follow.
Okay, before I get down to specifics, sir, I just wish to let you know that watching from Liberia is the Vice President of Liberia, Her Excellency Senator Joel Howard Taylor. She's watching us live from Liberia.
Good evening, Your Excellency. My regard to the President whose mentor happened to be a personal friend, wow. Pastor Tunde Bakare in Ibadan.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir. Now, to the specifics. You seem not to have been a great fan of your fellow Egba man, OBJ, President Olusegun Obasanjo.
Well, let's not peel old wounds. I have nothing personal against him. Many people outside there will not know that we were both Owu people. For example, Olufakun, who led the Owus to Egba Kingdom, is my paternal grandmother's father. And the Olowu will tell you, the present Olowu Kabiyesi will tell you the role that he played as the first Balogun and all the things that he did in their day. And besides that, he was classmate to my uncle. They were classmates at the Baptist Boys High School. We met at my uncle's funeral a few days ago in the Baptist church. Not only that, when he was former head of state, he was a Baptist. And from the Yaba Baptist Church, the Christian brothers would go to the Donam Barracks to play music there. I have nothing personal against Chief Olusegun Obasanjo. Nothing personal. But to whom much is given, much is expected. I thought no Nigerian had been as favored by God as him in terms of governance, opportunity to serve this nation. He seems to reap where I did not bestow labor. And that's biblical. Jesus said, I'm sending you to reap where I did not bestow labor. He didn't participate in the coup of 1966, but he benefited from it. He didn't participate in the Murtala Muhammad coup. He became the second in command. It became things that happened. And then they threw him into prison. And from prison, they called him out again to come and head this nation. I thought if anyone was to do any major surgical operation for this nation, he had the wherewithal. He's not crying for the same things now, asking for restructuring. And believe me, honestly, I respect his opinion because he has his own opinion on this issue. And maybe you don't know. We were since reconciled. I'm sure you saw him.
I'm aware of that, sir. Yeah. Yes. It was at Mama's funeral.
And 2 cows and 2 bags of rice were sent for me from his home. And we are grateful for the reconciliation, the healing that have taken place. So nothing personal at all. If I do things, I do them on principle. And he's also a very principled person. Let me tell you a joke. One day, his veterinary doctor, who became the general overseer of First, I was asked to come and review the book. Pastor Yorishejefa was there. Bishop Mike Okonkwo was there. Late Chief Bola Ige was there. Papa, Christopher Collade, they were all there. And I got up to review the book, and Chief Abasojo was the chairperson that day, where we presented your book, Institute of
NIA.
NIA.
Yeah.
And he gave every pastor three minutes. He said, you have 3 minutes because the time is well spent. And when it was my turn to review the book, he said, you have 3 minutes also. And I said, you were invited, and I was invited. I spent a week studying this book. I would do it, except the author, the man who invited me, said I should go and sit down. And then he turned to late Chief. He said, does he know I'm a woman? And I said, if you're a woman, I am a woo too. And he laughed. He said, it is their problem. They brought two Owu people together.
No, his sense of humor is incredible.
Yes.
Incredible. Now, many of our viewers, I'm receiving reports here, are asking that with benefit of hindsight, do you believe that Obasanjo performed well? He may not have achieved the goals. Did he build a good foundation, paying off our debts and all that?
To be very honest with you, since 1999, the return to democracy, I am yet to see any leader who had assembled a formidable team like he did to steer the affairs of this country. You can't take that away from him. Yes, a leader may set goals and he may achieve some and not achieve some. Governance and government is supposed to be a continuum. But there's no other administration since 1999 that has assembled a team like he did that took Nigeria out of doldrums and placed it on the pedestal.
Sir, what are your ideas of an ideal government?
Well, pretty simple. We start from the basics. What is the purpose of government? The welfare and the security of citizens. Any government that violates the rule of law does not even know why government exists. Almighty God took Israel out of Egypt and got them into the wilderness. And the first thing he gave them was 10 commandments. Where there is no rule of law, there will be rule of man. But where there is rule of law, everyone, including the president, minus some of the benefits given to them, so that they cannot be sued and be distracted while they are still in government. And that should not even include crime. Where there is no rule of law, there will be lawlessness, there will be rule of man. Part of our problem in this country is right is might. I mean, is might is right instead of right being might. If you know the purpose of the government is the security and welfare of the people, rule of law, I can't be part of any government that will violate the rule of law. I will either cry out or opt out. You cannot vote because you are destroying the basics and the fundamentals of good governance. And of course, transparency, so that you let people know. Look, it was one of the American presidents who said, tell the truth and let the country be saved. You let them know where they are, and you administer properly the resources of that nation. You put everything towards the development of that nation. It's not rocket science. Idea of good governance must administer our nation, and may God bless us with visionary leaders who use the tools of law and would understand that without a robust economy, they can't go so far. It's not rocket science at all. It's easy when your heart is to serve the people and is to deliver what you promise you would do to the people. The highest office in any nation where there's rule of law, the highest office is the office of the citizen. Because sovereignty lies the hands of the citizens, and those in government from top to bottom are servants of the people. If that is the heart we take into governance, in no time we'll turn our nation around. With quality men, competent men, with visionary leadership, Nigeria will come out of doldrums.
Wow. Yes, some are saying that you were the convener of the Save Nigeria group. And
by the grace of God, I was.
And that, did you ever expect that any subsequent government could be worse than the PDP Jonathan government?
Well, opinions are like noses. Everybody has it and they all look different. I've received many probably gratuitous insults from those who said I led all kinds of revolt and oppression of Nigerian people, a campaign for good governance in our nation. And I did that with all integrity. People do not know how close I was to the government of President Jonathan. When my memoirs are written, you will see the role God enabled me to play at that strategic moment when Nigeria was to change for the first time, when power was to change from another political party to another political party. I knew what God enabled us to do behind the scene to cause that smooth transition. You don't try to compare apple with mangoes. They are different fruits. Was PDP government all that corrupt and perverse? I mentioned in 1999 up to 8 years and maybe 10 years of Komoru. What would you say that they were doing? They were evil. They assembled the best team in the country in the days of General Obasanjo to do their bit. Let us not paint everybody with the same tar brush. As it is now, there were good people in PDP and there are good people in APC. There are bad people in PDP and there are bad people in APC. May God let the good ones be in the majority. That's the prayer we should be praying.
Sir, you are known to hold very, very strong views. In fact, sometimes I'm afraid, but I know you are protected by God. A lot of security, the herdsmen. I don't like to generalize. When people say Fulani, I delete Fulani. I just say herdsmen. So wherever the herdsmen come from, how does this make you feel about our government at the moment? Do you think they are doing enough?
I've spoken publicly several times. You know, the problem of the terrorists, for example, Boko Haram, did not start with this administration, but it escalated. One would have assumed, and we now know that assumption is the lowest level of knowledge. One would have assumed that the present president, being a former general, by this moment, Boko Haram would have been history. And it demonstrated his willingness to do that when he moved the command post straight into the battlefield. But from other parts of West Africa, we know how ISIS and others came to join them. I still see has not been able to do it, but I want to ask sincerely, can the government by itself alone do it? Where are these people getting their arms and ammunition from? Are they taking them from our military? Where is the support structure for these people? Which market did they get their food from? They live, people know where they are. Whatever a the root of this evil, whatever is supporting them, I pray God will expose all these people and they will get their just desert. A tree does not make a forest. I'm sure President Buhari would have realized that by now. As the commander-in-chief, the bulk heads on his table. But could he go to the battlefield himself to fight this battle? I assume it will be easy by now. And for the herdsmen, it's such a shame that lawlessness parades itself naked in our nation. Because those men who carry AK-47, where they got the arm and ammunition from, who gave them licenses to do what they are doing, they should be brought to book. Like you said, it has continued for too long a time. It is COVID-19 that has taken attention away from those things. And I hope as COVID-19 goes, those things also, government will look into them, because in this lockdown is the time to really get to those people right to their roots. Or else they can muster much strength and begin to afflict us one more time. I can only wish the government the best. I can only pray. But I'm saying, even amongst Nigerians, there are those who are supporting all these evil men in one form or the other. They have food supply. They have arms and ammunition. They don't fast. They have women amongst them. They capture some, but they marry. They lived amongst our people before. I pray we will not get to the place where we will say, okay, if they want their own independent republic, let them have it. That will be counterproductive for our nation. The earlier these evils are dealt with headlong, the better. I still do not know whether there is a constitutional barrier to bombing the whole of Sambisa Forest completely and raining down on that place completely, because we can't continue to do the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. I've spoken publicly over time that one is tired of just talking for talking's sake. But because by God's grace we have access to those who are in government, whatever little God gives is just and what is fair.
Yes, I was going to come to that, sir. But before then, I can see a lot of people hailing you, sir, and saying that you should be the president of Nigeria, that they are very, very impressed with the interview so far. You are one of the closest people I know, and I know this as a matter of fact, to the president. Could you tell us about how you try to help him from time to time? Yes, practically live in their own cage, what they call the gilded cage. So, but if friends like you don't talk to them, they might not even know what is happening. Is there any way you've tried to help him out?
Let me tell you that President Muhammadu Buhari had some wonderful people around him and who are in government with a clear intent of serving this nation well. You cannot rubbish the vice president. He was Attorney General for 8 years in Lagos. He's an erudite professor of law. He's a child of God and a pastor. He's an insider too. And there are other ministers that we know who are laboring day and night to move this nation forward. So, even without my counsel, he had enough hands. And Almighty God knows, because of the way he has opened the door to me, there have been no occasion that I had needed to see the president that the doors were not wide open. And I learned something from Dr. Billy Graham. This is at their home Just do yourself a favor. Serve as unto God. Don't go about dropping issues here and there, because you'll be abusing the confidence and the openness, the open door they have given to you. But let me tell you this to summarize my interaction with the president. And I've taken some of my friends with me too, who are so concerned about this nation. We've gone over and over again to have a legacy. I know that he desires to have it. He was overthrown, and God allowed him, after 3 trials, 2003, that God gave to him. I'm sure inside of him, he does not want it squandered. But a tree does not make a forest. It's still surrounded by people. I'll tell you one thing that happened one of my visits. First, let me go back in time to see how these things run. When the girls were abducted, it was during the time of President Jonathan. We were with him one night, 3 of us, when the chief of army staff, or one of those generals, called him and said, "They have been found." We jumped up. He was just given a false information. And I thought, why not fire? That the person who misinformed him was misinformed also. Now let's come back here. One day I went to the president. I said, when I ran election with you in 2011, you are GMB, General Muhammadu Buhari. But now that you are PMB, you're being a PMB has turned me into a PO box. Because everyone that want to write to the president, they'll drop it for me at the church or drop it at home. So I'm looking through documents, I'm seeing injustice, they will complain and complain as if I have the executive authority to do anything. But I've found a way of selecting those things and making sure it sees them. And I know some of the things that have been done because we moved. Therefore, I thank God for the opportunity, and I will not betray his confidence at any time. That's all I will say.
Thank you, sir. Before we go, I think I have just 2 more. It will not be nice if we don't speak about the Citadel Global Community Church, the new edifice. People would love to hear about it. I must congratulate you. I know it's taken a lot of sweat and hard work.
The building itself is a new phenomenon in church architecture. If you recall, we have been in one place for 30 years, going 31 now. It was before our 31st anniversary that we entered that place to celebrate Christmas celebration last year, to thank God and begin to use the place. It's near completion. We don't have a lot to do anymore, but for the lockdown, it would have been completed by end of April. But they have about 2 months more to go with a slow pace of things now with the lockdown. And by God's grace, it will be dedicated sometimes this year. It's a new phenomenon in church architecture. That building houses 4 major entities. People just think it's church. What is the use of putting billions in a building and using it twice a week? That's insanity. If you look at the book of Nehemiah, you will see that there's a place, it said in chapter 2, the temple, the citadel, the house that I would live in. And there were 4 entities there in Nehemiah chapter 2. So at the citadel, you have a corporation, is the commercial arm of that building, where you have all kinds of things. People can come in. You have a fitness center there. You have medical missions there, where people will be treated for all kinds of ailment. You have first-class canteen there, and you have barbing saloon. You have games room for children. So the first thing is a corporation. The second are the schools. There's going to be business school. There's going to be school of government, where we'll bring in our local government chairman to be trained. And we are reaching out to different colleges and different institutions of law, including the House of Lords, by the grace of God, to bring them in to teach good governance there. There's business school for EEC, eco skills, and be trained so that they are useful to their community. So you have the corporation, you have the schools, and you have the foundation. The foundation is our corporate social responsibility. We now have a hashtag called "I am my brother's keeper" to reach out to people so that it's not take money, take offering, take offering. We are also giving back to community within our environment and everywhere God will enable us to do that. And finally, there's a sanctuary where we worship God as often as you do. So it's not just a church building. We call it a new phenomenon in church architecture. There are many more things that I didn't even mention that you will see there. One of the concerns we had was, look, we must not create a nuisance in the community because of traffic jam on the road. So we ensured part of that building, that 60% of the concrete work are car parks. So that they can drive in and park and not create a nuisance on the road. That's a bit of what I can say. There will be library there, and you know, a library there that when I came to Lagos, I told you, I read the National Library. I didn't have books. I read at British Council Library. So I want to open that library to be open to all, whether Muslims or Christian, it doesn't matter. Any student that is thirsty to learn will have access to this library and be able to study until they shut the library, and then you can go home. And there's nursery, crèche, nursery, and primary school there. The 40 classrooms or 45 classrooms that will be for Sunday school will be used on Sunday for Sunday school, then Monday to Friday will be crèche, nursery, and primary school. And all these are registered already.
Wow. Congratulations, sir. Any other thing that we should look forward to in the church?
What do you say?
I said, is there anything else that we should look forward to in the church?
Well, when the time comes, I've told you, you have asked that Ovation Television would like to be there. At the appropriate time, we will call you in and we'll tell you the different things that are there. Open them to you and you see for yourself what God has done. That's not the work of any man. That's the work of God. God graced us, and our banker supporters. We put no pressure on anyone, and we've distributed no envelopes to anywhere in society, and you didn't get any either.
Wow.
We trusted God, people supported us, and God supplied, and our bankers supported us. But our dedication, it will not stop until we finish, and by the grace of God, our dedication, no one will be owed a dime.
Thank you, sir. Finally, the question everybody is waiting to answer. Will you run for the presidency of Nigeria in 2023?
You know, the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord. I'd never, ever said to anyone, I'm running for presidency. Not anywhere. I said my contribution to governments and governance in Nigeria has not ended. Believe me, things are going to happen in this nation that will make running unnecessary in the days to come. I know what I know, and I wish those who want to run all the very best, but things will happen before that time that will make everyone know that this is the way to go. Are we going to sabotage our democracy? No. Are we saying the president will die? No, none of them will die. But they will begin to see that, hey, we need to bring some people on board, and God giving them wisdom will continue to contribute our own quota from sideline. If the Lord and horses and building structure here and there, you have been there yourself. You have tried. Do you understand me? When I was running as vice presidential candidate, you ran for presidency. One thing people should know about Nigeria, Those who pursue it very hard sometimes don't get it. This current president did it 3 times before he walked on the 4th occasion. MKO spent and was spent for it. He was only honored later with Grand Commander of the Federal Republic posthumously. The same thing happened to Chief Obafemi Awolowo. The people will still tell you that someone said the best candidate may not win, and then it became a posthumous person that was honored. I remember it was Ikemba who said the best president Nigeria never had. Look at those who sat down and plotted and planned that didn't make it. So to be a senator who they drafted into become president. Look at Yaradua, who served in Katsina for 2 terms, and I was going back to Ahmadu Bello University to lecture. They drafted him in. God has a way of making Solomon king, even if Adonijah will not invite him to the party. He will be at home when the king will say, take my mule and bring that person. We are going to see signs and wonders before 2023 that will make the race in 2023 a very exciting one.
On this note, sir, I give you a standing ovation, sir. Thank you so much. It's been nice speaking to you, and we always end with to the family.
Regards your wife and your team and your God bless you. May ovation be going from strength to strength.
Amen,
may
sir.
you also go from glory to glory. And
Amen,
when
sir.
your ordination proper is going to take place, you have to come back to where we started. So
thank you, sir.
Do it efficiently and in order. Thank you for this sir. Privilege. God bless you and God bless your outfit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.